Okay, I'm going to open the meeting because we've got a lot to do today. So as President of ALT, I'd like to welcome you all to the AGM. And we've got an interesting meeting today. It's going to be in two parts because we're going to begin as the association we've always been and end as a charitable incorporated organization. First of all, I'd like to ask Maren to tell us about apologies for absence.
Yes, so we've had apologies for absence from Doug Gowan and Sarah Schmuller. I've noted those.
Because we have so much on the agenda, I just want to emphasize that we have to have everything finished by 16:35 in order to have time for the next meeting. So if I appear to be rushing at times, that's the reason. We're tight on time. As there will be potentially shows of hands during the meeting, I'd like to appoint two tellers. Could I have two volunteers to count the show of hands?
One, James Clay.
James Clay, thank you. And one more. Anyone who can count, thank you. Teresa. Okay, thank you. And could we have a proposer and seconder for the two tellers? Gilly and Alistair, thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting, which was held in Warwick on 2nd of September 2014, the minutes of that meeting have been circulated, I believe. And what I'd like to do is have the meeting's agreement to approve those minutes as an accurate record. So I'm going to ask if I could have someone who was present at that meeting to propose acceptance of the minutes. There must be somebody here. Yeah. Liz. Let's take Liz this time. Thank you. And James Clay is seconding. Thank you. Okay, so can I have the meeting's agreement that the minutes of the September 2nd, 2014 meeting are an accurate record? Thank you. Matters arising. The main item in matters arising will be the transition to CIO status, and we'll cover that under item 8. So we don't need to discuss that at this point, but let me just ask if there are any other matters arising. Okay. So now to the annual report and accounts for 2014-15. There are copies available, and I'm going to ask Hayden Blackie, who is Honorary Treasurer of ALT, to report to the meeting and then take questions. Hayden, thank you.
I know there's a copy of the accounts which have already been circulated for the event, and including the annual report from the trustees as well as the accounts. My report is to note that this was not a particularly easy year for the association. You'll note that the bottom line is that the association made a loss of around £76,000 during the year, which is not the best thing to be saying as Honorary Treasurer, particularly as after the elections later in this meeting I will no longer be Honorary Treasurer. It's not the greatest sign-off that I could possibly have done. However, the reality is that the way we account for some of our income has been done under our advice from our auditors, and therefore the money we receive from the Open Learning Partnership as a transfer of assets when that charity finished and they handed their assets to ALT was recorded as income in the year it was received, not in the year it was expended, and we deliberately have decided to draw down as a body of trustees those assets over a period of 4 years. And so when you take that into account, alongside the fact that there was £15,000 of income that made our accounts look very bright this time last year, which are actually due for projects which we expended in this year, the overall impact is closer to a still negative figure, but a negative figure of £15,000. One of the things that Alt wasn't able to achieve last year, as well as it had in the previous years, and as well as it has started to do already in this year, is to draw down income through projects that we've used our own staff and our own internal skills, our members, to complete. And last year was a particularly weak year for that, and in terms of our budget, we recognised it was weak pretty early on and reduced some of our expenditure to address that. The trustees, recognising we were in this situation well before we got to the accounting level, agreed two things to take us forward. One is an increasing focus on organisational membership and renewal. While individual membership are important, we have to recruit something like 30 individual members to come close to some of our smallest organisational members. So a clearer focus in the membership area, but also to be working on new projects which draw income for the society that aren't heavy in expenditure. And I know from reading my Twitter stream that both today and yesterday you've been talking about one of those projects, the Course on Future Learn, for example, of which Alt is one of the partners. And there are a number of other examples of that, which means that by this time next year, where my successor as Treasurer is undertaking this role, the situation will not be anywhere near the situation at the end of this year. So I'm presenting the accounts recognising that they're not in any way a rosy picture, but they're a real picture, and the trustees are taking account of that and are acting to secure the future of the association on that basis. And I think the team, particularly Maren as Chief Executive and Jane, who supports her in her finance role, have played a huge part of making that happen successfully this year. So as well as going to be about to ask you to approve the current set of accounts, I would like to recognise Maren and Jane's work in a traditional manner. So, before I do make that request, could I ask you for any questions from the floor, either about what I've just said or any aspects of the accounts that I could address for you? What's that? Oh yes, forward the slide. Thank you. There we go. We've got people attending at a distance, so we're on that point in the slides. I thought Martin was going to ask me a question when you started waving, Martin, but that was just making sure we got to the right slide for the agenda. So no other questions. Then if I could ask the President to seek approval for the audited accounts.
So if we can ask for agreement on Resolution 1 that the 2015 AGM approves the 2014 to 2015 annual report and accounts. Could I have a proposer? Alistair, thank you. A seconder? Matt, thank you. So thank you very much, Hayden. And we haven't done the vote yet. Sorry. Yes. We do actually have to put this to the vote. So could you raise your hands, please, to vote for?
The tellers need to come up, Teresa. Teresa, you're the teller.
Teresa, and who was the first teller? James. James has come.
You can keep holding your cards up. If you need additional cards, if you come in late, we have staff on hand to give you cards. Wait if you need an additional card, and Anna there has additional cards. You might be able to get one. Diana, you need a card.
Yeah, sorry.
Diana as well.
If you didn't get mine.
Sorry, keep your hands up. You've got five, you just keep two hands up, is this where we start the next? You're not voting, are you?
Yes, I am.
Two, you've got two.
Two, yeah. Organisation and individual.
And could I ask if those against? That was a brief wave of something up there. And abstentions? One abstention? Two abstentions? Sorry. Thank you, colleagues. So the resolution is passed, and we move on to item 7, to the appointment of an auditor for the 2015-2016 accounts. And I'd like to propose from the chair that we appoint Shaw Gibbs LLP of Oxford as auditors for the 2015-2016 accounts. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you. And we have to have votes for, please. Do you want to just demonstrate? Good, well done. And those against? And abstentions? Thank you, colleagues. And we move on to item 8, the main business of the meeting, the report on the transition to CIO status. And I'm delighted to report that following on from the members' approval of the move to charitable incorporated status with the association model, at the 2014 AGM last year, the trustees have taken steps to register ALT as a CIO and to transfer the assets and liabilities of the current charity to the CIO with effect from the 9th of September 2015, today. The transfer resolution has been approved by members of the CIO trustees accordingly, and trustees will now take steps to prepare a nil balance accounts for approval at the next general meeting of the charity for filing with the Charity Commission. So the transfer agreement between the association and the CIO will be signed at the end of this meeting. We can now move on to item 9, a brief verbal report from Maren Deepwell, Chief Executive Officer. So I'll invite Maren, please, to give us a brief report.
Thanks, Diana, and thank you all. It's a pleasure to see you all here today. I've got 3 items of business. The first that I'd like to report on is changes to the editorial team for the journal that we publish as an association, Research and Learning Technology. In particular, I'd like to note our formal thanks on behalf of the association for Meg O'Reilly. And Meg, hello in Australia if you're watching in midnight, I think. Thank you for all the work you've done for us for the past few years as an exceptional editor of the journal. But in person, I'd like you to please put your hands together for Stephen Verjans, who is also retiring this year as an editor. Now, also this year, we're celebrating a lot of milestones at this AGM, so just because we're rushing through them slightly doesn't mean we don't want to really take note, is that the ALT newsletter, now the @ALTC blog, excitingly, is relaunching at this conference for its 10th birthday. And again, I'm hoping in the audience, I will see Anne Hall, and possibly, Anne, you're here, give us a wave. This is Anne, ladies and gentlemen. She edits our newsletter, and also Howard Scott, who's a wonderful editor for our newsletter, and for the entire editorial team who have made the blog a real centerstone of what we do as an association. Please put your hands together once more to say thank you. There is birthday balloons and birthday sweets down at the old stand, so please join Anne and her colleagues and contribute. Now, last but not least by any means, I wanted to add to Hayden's reflection on our year this year, because in a year with the election, it's always risky for bodies like ours, where our members are so dependent on what's happening in the political arena. Lots of pressures from all around, and a lot of organizations have met even bigger challenges that we have. And this conference is the largest we've run in over 4 years, with more papers, more volunteers involved, hundreds literally. And I'm very humbled by the amount of time, effort and energy a lot of members put into our association, not just during these 3 days when we're all together, but every single day throughout the year. Whether they're acting as editors, whether they're volunteering in committees, whether they're supporting our community in another way. I calculated this morning over breakfast that I have 1 member of staff, including myself, for 100 participants here over 3 days. And the reason why that's possible is that we also have at least 50 people involved in a voluntary capacity for every 100 delegates who is here today to deliver that experience. So I want to give my own thanks to you and your community and your colleagues, whether they're here or not, to say thank you for continuing supporting us, and I can't wait to see what the next year will bring. So thank you.
Okay, so now we can move on to the elections of the trustee vacancies. And I'm delighted to announce the election to Vice Chair of Martin Weller, who will become Vice Chair this year, and then Chair in September 2016, and then President in 2017. Martin was elected unopposed, needless to say. And then 2 further trustees have been elected to serve for 3 years as trustees of ALT. Both also elected unopposed. Neil Morris from University of Leeds and Daniel Clark, and I would like to congratulate them both. I very much look forward to working with you both. Now we come to the point where I feel this is where I have to hand over as president, and I think there should be a sort of ceremony, rather like when the speaker is dragged to the chair in the House of Commons, except you're going to have to drag me away this time. I have to say it's been such an honor and privilege to be in this position on the trustees board for the 3 years as vice chair and then president. But I'm not going to be going away very far, so I can't resist coming to ALT every year. So I just look forward to being here in a different capacity. But I just want to say my sincere thanks to all members of the trustees board who made it so easy to do this role. It's been a fantastic 3 years. And what I would like to do now is to especially give thanks to the retiring trustees, Hayden Blackie, without whom we would have had the most difficult time. And it's always been so reassuring to have Hayden there as treasurer, and he's gone on and on as honorary treasurer, desperately looking for somebody to help us with this. So Hayden, thank you so much for all your service. You've been absolutely tremendous. Can I give you this? Please congratulate Hayden. Superb service. Thank you. And, of course, to Claire Donlan, our former president, who then carried on for a further year as trustee. And Claire, likewise, has given long service to the association. Very much want to thank her warmly congratulate her for her work here as well. And we have a presentation to her in absentia, and I will find some way of doing that. So Claire, if you're watching, thank you again. So please put your hands together to say thank you. And now I would like to ask Fiona Harvey, our Vice Chair, to step up in her role as Vice Chair representing the Chair, Doug Gowan, so that I can make the formal handover of the association as a membership body to the being charitable status. Okay.
So between one AGM and the other, we will now actually sign the agreement. So I think if you could sign on behalf of the association together with Hayden, and then Fiona will sign on behalf of the CIO. We can ask Matt Lingard to step down. So this is our milestone in very public view. I've got pens. There you are. And then we will continue.
For those who are not completely clear,
I can explain.
It's better service, yeah.
American expenditure. Why this is so important?
Yes, so last year you all voted that we would change our legal status, and now we are ready to change our legal status. We've been registered as a CIO since February, and this will actually transfer all of us with everything and the kitchen sink to our new legal status, so that when we start our AGM as the CIO in a few seconds' time, we will all be members of the new CIO. So I hope you're waiting with bated breath.
Do I then print it?
Can I sign that? And then you two sign there.
Okay.
And there.
You all want to hold it instead of...
Okay, so Chris can take a photo of this, is it?
I should read it.
What's that? I should read it. You've had this for 3 weeks. You've surely read it in the online
Yeah, no, I just
version.
make sure I'm signing the same document.
Lovely, Matt.
Should you all together? Just
Yes, so, in which form?
Yes, us handing it
You and
over
I
to
are
them.
handing over.
Go on, grab hold of it.
It has direction.
Gentlemen, so we're all done.
Okay. Should I hand you back to Baron? I'll stay up here and flip the pen.
No, and Fiona, if you want to start the next AGM, and Diana, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have to move the slide?
We will need to move a slide, yep.
Okay, so... Hayden's slide mover. Okay, everybody, well, thank you for coming along to the first general annual meeting of the Association for Learning Technology. The processes and the people remain the same. Just to note then that I'm here in place of Doug Gowan, who couldn't be here today, so, and he is actually going to be the president. And I believe all the arrangements are the same, so we have the same two tellers.
So tellers are same as before, James Clay and Therese Bird.
Okay. And again, we have to just hold the cards up to do our voting. And the apologies are the same.
The apologies are Doug Gowan and Seb Schmoller.
And the tellers are the same, so that's done. Do we have to have 2 more people to volunteer, or just the same? Okay. Okay, the transfer agreement between the charity and the CIO. Just to note that this is now in effect. And with the transfer agreement between the charity and the charitable incorporated organisation, all the assets and liabilities have been received by the CIO as set out in our transfer agreement, which has been circulated to all of you. And just to note that this meeting is convened in accordance with the CIO's constitution. And then we'll go on to item 5. It's a very quick meeting. Any matters arising from the 2015 ALT AGM. We're just going to note that the first annual report and accounts of ALT will be reported at the AGM on the 7th of September 2016, which will cover the financial period, which is the 9th of September 2015 to the 31st of January 2016. And the first trustees of the new ALT CIO are those in place at the date of the transfer of the assets. And with that, I'd like to close the meeting. I was great. Just to say thank you to all the trustees that we've got today, and all the members, and we're looking forward to the next year. So thank you.
And if all the trustees of the new alt-CIO could convene at the front here, and we'll now get on with governance. Thank you. Well, thank you both. I can't believe it. You've managed to fit it in with a moment to spare. Yes. Thank you so much.